even though I have many problems with Dune and the politics of Dune and how I think people interpret Dune incorrectly, I do appreciate Dune as a work of speculative fiction within magic and magical philosophy. Of course, especially with the Bene Gesserit. And I think something I've been thinking about recently with AI and in relation to Dune is that the Bene Gesserit are trying to establish a way of human thinking, an understanding of the human corporeal body as technology. So instead of like creating technology outside of yourself, creating AI data centers to do all this computing, and that's like the mentats, and that's, I mean, all these different societies, because of AI and the fallout from that, realize that we as humans are the organic technology, and how do we develop our own being into a supercomputer. And that this also came up because I read Three Body Problem, and the part with the human supercomputer is, it's like bringing back the understanding of technology back to the basics, understanding what a computer is inputs and outputs, and like, is that what I am? And can I develop my technology to a point where, we don't need to build radio towers, or we don't need to build data centers anymore, because we have an understanding of our own internal capabilities. And that is what I find interesting about the Bene Gesserit, mentality, the philosophy that they're teaching, is how do we do that? I think I have a different way that I would do that, but apart from the Bene Gesserit, and apart from eugenics, and I really do think that's where a lot of like witchcraft, feminine magic comes in, because a lot of these things, say you want to build a human supercomputer, you have to be in community with people. You have to create that net of inputs and outputs. You have to build trust and understanding. The reason the human supercomputer in Three Body kind of worked is because they had a structure of, it was a militarized structure. I could never do that, but there was a structure of trust. These men had trained with one another, and they believed in their leader. That was enough to build these structures together. Ultimately, those people were suffering, and they kind of suffered for nothing, because the chaotic era was a miscalculation. So, building up your own internal computer takes patience. It takes resource awareness. I can try to build that kind of computer with my friends, a working cohesive group with my friends, but my friends have to trust me, and I have to trust them, and that takes time. And this is back to the point of like resource availability and how that affects human advancement. Are we going to destroy everything just for advancement? Is that advancement? Or are we going to take an account of what we do have and work within those parameters? And I think that ties back into understanding ourselves as technology, and how we can apply ourselves into the technology of society, of community. And I find that interesting to develop. How can AI bring us into an awareness of our own capabilities? An AI data center isn't going to matter when there's no more water, when there's not access to the resources it needs to function. And we can look inward, we can think smaller. Create that working computer with your friends, with just two of your friends. Can you do it? Like, is that a feat of human technology?